Hello, everyone. We are back. I know it's been a little bit of a hiatus for the Resch brothers, about 3 weeks since episode 1 with ESPN's Mark Spears. We had a blast with Mark, but we are back. You're looking at, if you're watching us on YouTube, our good friend Josh Sens, Golf Magazine, been writing for years. He is our guest today. We're going to talk a lot of things, obviously, PGA Championship week here in the Bay Area at Harding Park. I'm in San Francisco. You see my background. That is 16 at Harding. Scott, he is in Park City. Episode 2 of From the Tips begins right now, and it is sponsored by, yes, we are sponsored this week by a company I'm working for a little bit. It's called Remask. It's the best mask company out there. If you want to be safe, check these masks out. www.remask.com. That's REMASQUE. Made with bamboo, made in the USA, adjustable. They've got ear straps. They've got flexible nose bridge. They're customizable for companies. So if you want to check this company out, you can even use my code, get 15% off, Colin15 at remask.com. Here we go. From the Tips, episode 2. Josh, welcome to the show, man.
Man, from Mark Spears to me, you guys are scraping the barrel quickly, I see.
Hey, if the PGA Championship wasn't happening this week, I wouldn't have called.
I'd be totally irrelevant. No, I only wish I had a product to shamelessly plug as well, but I don't. It's just me. That's all I'm selling here.
Well, let's start with the PGA. We've all played Harding numerous times. I've probably played it. I don't know if I've played it more than you, Josh, but I'm probably going at least 50 times. Scott's probably played it 10. You're probably close. The venue this week looks like the weather's going to be, typical San Francisco in the summer, but it should be pretty good. What do you see? It's not going to have, well, we might have these sort of sunsets late into the night there, but what do you foresee happening this week? Because it's a tournament and it's a major unlike any we've ever seen.
Well, first I'll say, I've been playing the course since the late 1980s when I first moved out to the Bay Area. So it's been a little more than 30 years. And that was in the previous iteration prior to the renovation. I walked it last week and played it about 3.5 weeks ago as they were trying to get the course into tournament shape. They're narrowing down the fairways. They're growing out the rough. They're trying to firm it up as much as they can. I mean, they're doing what they do to try to defend a course against the modern game. That's all they have at a course like Harding. You can only stretch the tips back so far. Distance only goes so much towards defending against, Bryson proofing a golf course. You got to grow the rough up. That's what they've done. They've narrowed down the fairways, and that's going to be the defense, along with some tight pin positions.
Tell me what the changes in the course, because it's playing as a par 70. Why?
Well, the ninth hole, which for you and I and any other regular Joe, Schmo, or Jane out there who plays it, that normally plays as a par 5. They've turned that into a par 4. It's going to be playing about 515 yards straight away. Normally a par 5, but now a par 4. And the 12th hole, which ordinarily plays as a par 5, has also been reduced to a par 4. That's another way of sort of defending against the ridiculously red numbers that they hope not to see. You understand that a PGA Championship, the numbers are going to get a little lower than they are at a U.S. Open, but they're hoping for, that it's not going to become, 28 under in the desert in Palm Springs kind of tournament.
Favorite hole at Harding Park, since the three of us have played it so much. We'll start with you, Scott, at the bottom. I'm not giving you any time to think about this, but you've played it enough. Is there one that just, you're like, that's my hole there?
It's got to be 18, just because it's such a different hole. If you play it from those back tees, you've got some carry. You got to carry not only a ravine, but really to give yourself the best angle into that green, you've got to carry that cypress tree, don't you? So it's and then on top of that, you've got a fairway bunker out there on the right, and you've got that view of the clubhouse playing to an uphill green from the middle of that fairway, and you've got the lake there along your left. I think it's the one that sort of I find myself taking pictures of the most whenever I play there.
And I watched the head pro there do a video recently, Josh, and they've moved the tees back even further than normal on 18 for the tournament. So, I mean, you're tucked against that back fence is what it looks like to me right at the entry.
Yeah, and from what I've seen the pros out there playing in the past, the President's Cup and the Amex events that they've had out there, you pull it back, but they can still cut that corner. They're taking lines that we just don't take, and they're they're going to cut that hole down to size. They'll be hitting, I think after good drives, 7 and 8 irons into a hole that for the rest of us were flaring a drive out there 220 and then hoping to feather a 3 or 4 iron in. It's just going to play so differently for these guys.
Yeah, I think
but yeah, I'm with Scott. I mean,
I think what the pro said was the carry over the lake from where that tee is going to be is 280, just to carry the water. So
in that marine layer, wow.
Yeah, so Jim Furyk's not going to be cutting the corner, but most of these guys will be. They'll be taking an aggressive line. You kind of have to. As you bail out to the right there, the rough comes up pretty quickly. There's some bunkers. That's not where you want to be playing for. These guys are going to be trying to cut off that corner.
Do you have a favorite this week? I mean, every week people can check you out on Golf Magazine, or just about every week, right, with your expert pick. I know everyone's talking about the big bombers this week, but is there one that you're saying this guy's due, or this course fits him really well this week?
Well, I'll say I had Brendan Todd this past week, and he was a good bet for about 63 holes until he collapsed down the stretch. This week, it's hard to ignore Brooks. Brooks Koepka's rounding into shape. He always his game seems to peak in times for the majors. This is a course that you would think would set up for him. He can kind of bomb and gouge it around. It's not overly complicated, not a lot of shaping the ball here and there. I took Xander Schauffele, but I've been sort of on Xander Schauffele forever. He's one of those guys who's just always in it. Has not seemed to be able to push it over the edge for the big ones. He's been in it. He's been in the final groups in majors before. I keep expecting him to break through. This season's been a little weird for him so far. I mean, he's been in a lot of events, but they've been late surges. He's had a couple glitches early on. If he can avoid some of those big numbers he's posted in the recent tournaments this season so far, I like him. I mean, he's got such a steady game, and I see no reason why it's not his time.
He's a California kid too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's from San Diego, and a little bit of a different climate, but in San Diego you get that June gloom, that marine layer. He's used to playing in heavy coastal air. I think there are a lot of things going for him. Plus, he's coming off a good final round this past week, so he's got some good vibes here. And he's due. Scott,
who do you like?
I've been saying for a while that Patrick Cantlay's due. I think he's, sometimes it feels like he doesn't show up, but man, you watch that guy swing. It's hard to believe that there's ever a tournament where he's not in the top 5. But I think could be his week. He's been playing well of late, it seems. I don't know how he did this past weekend, but and he's got all the tools.
It cuts two ways when you got him on the camera going down the stretch, though. All that fidgeting, the pre-show routine drives me insane.
Yeah,
God,
even the fidgeting over the putts. Yeah.
Oh God, it drives me insane.
Yeah. Does DeChambeau drive you crazy? Because I watch him and it's laborious to me, man. I mean, all his other stuff, but just his pace of play drives me crazy.
Yeah.
It's rough, but I kind of like that he's emerging as golf's new villain. We had Patrick Reed with the sort of Sandgate down at Tiger's event, and DeChambeau, he just seems to, he says things. They're one to the sort of spectrum-y stuff. Just seems a little off last week.
Living to 140? What? That's weird.
Well, yeah, and going off about how you want a relief from an ant hole. You just thinking like, what are you doing, dude? Like you're just sort of looking for ways to be annoying. But you got to admire his intensity, and it's good to have someone like that. He's been the most compelling guy to watch this year, whether you like him or not. He's made for riveting TV.
Yeah, and it makes you think too about getting back to talking about the 18th hole. Where's his ball going to end up on that hole?
Right.
That's a whole nother stratosphere. Is he going to be just playing a little flip sand wedge into that green? It's hard to fathom, but the way he's hitting the ball right now, how far he's hitting it, it wouldn't be inconceivable.
Something that's going to be interesting to watch this week that I thought of, and Colin, you and I talked about it a little bit when we were just talking about the event last week on the phone, is walking the course last week. There's not going to be any spectators far off the fairway. Normally, the farther you stray from the fairway at these events, you get into trampled down grass. That's not going to be the case here. Under the trees, a few paces off the fairway now, it gets really thick, really fast at Harding. So when you think of guys like who make a living scrambling from the rough, like Tiger and Phil, that's going to be hard going. It's not going to be one of those places you can just knock it anywhere.
Well, that's one of the things I've mentioned so many times when we've been at some of these media outings, Josh, and Scott, you've been at these as well. They grow up the courses, then they let the media play, usually before the tournament, right? 3 or 4 weeks before. And we're playing them in conditions that the pros are going to play in. But like the U.S. Open, there was at Olympic Club in 2012. We played that media day. We all shot 115 or whatever. And then the pros play, and they're struggling to shoot under par. But I noticed just going there off the fairway, all that rough that was 8 inches high that we were playing on the media day was trampled down, which told me that's got to be a little bit easier for the pros than hitting out of 8-inch rough, right?
What are you saying? You would have shot 112 if the rough had been probably instead of 115?
At least I might have broke 110, Josh. I might have.
Yeah, no, that's the only thing that's been holding you back from the big time, Colin. I can tell. You just need to play a more trampled down rough. Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Is there a possibility that guys can lose a golf ball in the rough out there because there are no fans marking those shots?
I don't think so. You know, they're going to have spotters, but I'll tell you, like when I played it right before they shut the course down. I think they shut the course down on July 19th, if I remember. And I must have played it on July 16th. And I played with a couple friends, and, you know, playing without spotters, if you were a foot off the fairway, you were likely to lose a ball. We all played like brightly colored balls. We were warned, bring the neon balls, and we did. And even then, you had to almost step on it to find it. But I don't think that's going to be an issue come tournament time. I mean, it's going to be a sparse infrastructure out there, but they're going to have guys and gals spotting the balls for them, and you'll need them.
Yeah. Scott said 18's his favorite hole. Is that your favorite hole?
You know, it's a spectacular hole. I like it. I think my favorite hole, I'm partial to short par 4s, and I've always liked the 16th at Harding a lot. The one that you're framed by.
It's my favorite too. It's my favorite as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that you know, it used to be, I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the day before they renovated and they pruned all the trees on the right, that used to be the thickest forest of cypress trees over there. If your drive strayed over there, the ball would like nest in the trees. You could stand there for hours waiting for the wind to blow for your ball to come down. Sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. And if it dropped down, you were just as likely to be blocked. Now you're not really. They've eliminated some of the strategic demand with by pruning a lot of those trees on the right and removing some of them altogether. But it's still a cool hole, and it's going to be great for the tournament. You know, a lot of these guys will be able to drive it depending on where they place the tee. Always makes for good drama. And when they don't, you got to kind of pick your spot off the fairway like a lot of good short par 4s. It's about, you know, placement off the tee to set up your second.
Well, that's another reason why I like it so much. I've had 2 eagles in my life, and my second one was on 16. They had the tees up playing 288, and I somehow faded a driver onto the green and then made a 40-footer. But I like the risk-reward of it. I think, right, if it comes down to the last few holes of the tournament, it's a hole that guys can make up some ground or potentially lose the tournament right there.
Yeah, I mean, good short par 4s are always like that. And you're kind of like my editor, Colin. I can tell. We have an editor. We used to joke that the only hole that would appear in Golf Magazine was one that he birdied, and if he eagled it, it would appear on the cover.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I can tell why you've picked that as your backdrop too.
Yep. You know it.
Well pointed out.
We're all just trying to cling to whatever glory we can hold on to as we lurch into middle age here, guys. You know.
Well, speaking of that, so what'd you do to your shoulder? You're not even playing anymore.
Yeah, you know, this is a sad middle-age injury. A couple of weeks ago, I was right after I'd played Harding. That was my last round. I was reaching for a book, and I felt something. And then later that day, I was in the backyard with my son, and he spat out a cherry pit. And he's an obnoxious teenager. I picked up the cherry pit, tried to throw it at him, and just blew out my rotator cuff. Brutal. Oh. So, you know, my hopes of becoming a closer for the Giants, a setup man for this shortened season, are gone down the drain. And now I don't know when I'll be back on the golf course. It's killing me. Killing me literally and figuratively.
Because of a cherry pit?
A cherry pit. Yeah. I mean, you know that feeling when you're like throwing a wiffle ball or a tennis ball, you got to warm up slowly with something light. It was like that to the 20th degree. Never, when you're 53 years old and not warmed up, should you ever throw a cherry pit in anger at your teenage son, no matter how obnoxious he's being. Let that be a cautionary tale to you both.
Well, yeah, I'm not throwing cherry pits at my kids, man. I'm not going to do it. Now I know.
I mean, it's pretty much like a friend of mine was giving me grief. He was like, that is the most middle-aged Jewish injury I've ever heard of, and I stand guilty as charged. Sort of something that would happen to Larry David.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a Seinfeld episode.
But he'd make a good sitcom out of it. I'm just complaining at home.
Well, we're not far behind you, so we thank you for the advice.
Yeah, sure. Let me be a cautionary tale to you both.
Yeah.
Well, our thing is we played. So I drove out to Utah. I told you about this, Josh. So Scott out there in Park City played in his member guest. I drove from Yosemite area, Mariposa, 13 hours straight through. Wife wasn't going to let me hop on a plane, of course, and I get it. And what do we miss? We missed out on the money by 3 shots.
3 or 4. Yeah, I think 3 on the money, probably 5 on first. Or no,
Was this a handicapped event or what was it?
Yep.
Yeah, handicapped.
Handicapped?
Yeah.
So Scott shot even par both days, scrambled and best ball. Basically shot even both days, and I shot like low 90s both days. So I really helped. I really helped. Yeah.
Well, that degenerate lifestyle Scott's living up there in the mountains pays off for his golf game. I mean, we all live sort of vicariously through his days of endless summers.
Shh.
Oh wait, you have a job. That's right. Yeah. Wait, you allegedly get paid for this too. Sorry about that. Colin, edit that out in post production.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I can always edit it. Yeah.
I get asked the question all the time for years. Why do you live in Utah? And I just say, I don't know. Maybe come check it out sometime. I'm not going to give all the secrets away because this place is starting to fill up, and that's part of the reason why I moved here. Was it wasn't full. It was still had the type of population that I was looking for, and boy, with this whole COVID thing, I can already feel the expansion of it. It's going to be real interesting how this place grows, or to what extent it grows in the next year or two, I think.
People looking to get out into the fresh air.
Yep, we get a lot of people moving in from places like the Bay Area already.
Yeah. Do you guys still have the Olympic Village, Olympic training areas out there, the Skeleton Run and the...
Oh, yeah.
Those things are cool.
Really cool and hugely popular still. And, I think further reason why this place should host another Olympics, because the infrastructure's here. It's all still top notch, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be put to use again for something like that.
Have you guys heard the scuttlebutt that the Olympics themselves, the future might be in jeopardy, that the days of the Olympics are fading, that in the era of pandemics and travel and, all sorts of questions about costs to host cities, that there's a lot of criticism of the Olympics proper as an institution?
I have not heard that. No.
Yeah, I don't see them going away, but I just thought I'd float a conspiracy theory out there to get it out there on the internet.
We need one of those per episode. Yeah.
This is the age of conspiracy theories, so yeah.
Yeah.
Well, bringing up COVID and everything, and I guess lastly about the PGA before we get into your background and everything, and a bunch of questions Scott wants to fire at you is just how strange it's going to be here, right? Only a certain amount of media members allowed, kind of like the NBA bubble. Mark Spears told us there was only 20 allowed at the NBA's bubble there in Orlando. Here, as you know, you said Golf Magazine's only sending one person, Alan Shipnuck. So it's everything about it screams anti-major in a way.
Yeah.
Give me your perspective, because you're obviously on the front lines right now.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it during an editorial meeting, how it just felt like this major snuck up on us. Normally at the magazine and for the website, we're just so ramped up, weeks in advance getting prepared. And then suddenly it was sort of like this, oh my God, next week's the PGA, it's happening. And because of all the other coverage that normally happens around a major, you're doing destination coverage, especially in a city like San Francisco, one of the most beloved sort of visitors destinations in the world. There's so much else to cover. The other courses, the restaurant scene, the lifestyle, the beauty of the Bay Area. We're not doing any of that coverage. It's all focused on the venue itself. So there's that. And there's also, the atmosphere itself at the tournament. Rory McIlroy earlier this week, he got asked about what it's been like since the comeback. And he said, every event feels the same to him. Without the fans, you can't gauge the different sort of electricity and atmosphere. And that's going to be interesting too. The question is, are these guys going to be feeling the same amount of pressure? Who will that benefit? Who won't it benefit? Some of these guys feed off of those moments where the crowd is just getting its most intense. Other guys seem to shrink from it. So that'll be something that we'll be looking out for too. How will that play out? And will you feel that kind of pressure cooker coming down the stretch that you normally do at a major? It's hard to kind of gauge without the fans oohing and awing at every shot.
Are you bummed that you're not going to be there?
Most of my coverage is around travel and profiles and kind of quirky destinations. I don't cover the tour as much. Alan's really our tour guy, and it couldn't be in better hands. And I'm not just saying that because he's been doing it for so long.
Sure.
I actually prefer doing coverage around events, finding quirky stories off the grounds, finding personalities and destinations to cover than I do to covering the tour. It's not that I'm not interested in the tour, but it's not been my background. And I'm almost as happy to watch an event on TV as I am to watch it live.
I couldn't agree more. I've been to several over the years, and I've thought, in fact, one, I remember, this sums it up. In 2005, I was at St. Andrews for the British Open and the Open Championship, I should say. And I recall, instead of watching those last several holes or watching any amount of Tiger's final round, I went out onto the course after they had started the trip, the inward nine, and I walked it from behind them. So they were a couple holes ahead of me, and I just walked it in behind them just because I was more interested in the architecture of the place rather than being amongst the thousands of people that, were following he and Monty around the course. And you can't see anything in those situations. You are better off watching on TV. And so I just took the opportunity to sort of get to know the course better myself. I never got I still haven't had a chance to play it, but that was more interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean these are old courses. I mean, obviously the old course is as old as it gets, or almost as old as it gets. And Harding is a golden age design, 1920s. This is not a stadium course. It's not set up for viewing. I mean, they do their best that they can with grandstands and all that. But when you're out walking a course like that, you have sort of one view of a hole at a time. You're not sort of sitting back like you are at TPC Scottsdale on the top of a grandstand looking across the whole expanse of the grounds. It's sort of an effort to watch and to follow.
Yeah.
Because the courses aren't designed for those, to move crowds around like that.
So you and I, Josh, we met years ago when I was working the PR business and representing some golf courses and unique destinations, as you might call them earlier. And helped set up a trip for you to Vietnam, and actually tagged along for a portion of that trip. Before we sort of get into to any of that, how did you get into golf riding, and what was your first golf travel story that you would sort of register as your first golf travel story?
Well, I took up golf. I didn't play as a kid. I took up golf in college, and I was into it when I got out of college, and I got a job out in the Bay Area working for a newspaper. But I was a newspaper reporter doing nothing related to golf. And I had a job writing a sort of man bites dog column for the San Francisco Chronicle, sort of oddball stories in the news. And a buddy of mine told me about this high Tibetan Lama who he'd met at the local Muni who was a golf addict. And I called him up, and sure enough, is this guy named the Lama Kunga, who was, a disciple of the big hitter himself, of the Dalai Lama. He agreed to meet me for a round of golf. It just turned into this comic round where my car broke down driving him out there, and we had to get towed from the side of the road. And then the Lama himself turned out to be a bit of a cheat on the golf course. He was sort of the anti-Lama in every way, and he had a great sense of humor. And so I wrote that account up, and it got picked up by a magazine that then went under, and then Golf Digest picked it up. And as a result of that, I got connected to people in the golf world, and I sort of fell into golf writing. And that was early 2000s. And so it's been almost 20 years since, but totally a lot of the best things in life, totally accidental.
But I think, the fact that you're always looking for characters is the key point of that. From the very first time that we had any sort of interaction about your trip to Vietnam, which is where I was living at the time, where all the clients were I was working with, you wanted entree to characters. It wasn't, I want to talk to the best player, or I want to talk to the GM of this particular course. It was characters. And by virtue of sort of getting those types of people, I think that's really what comes through in your writing, what makes your writing. Every piece that I read, I just read the one on the Muni and Waikiki. And again, interesting people, and is the common thread there. In stuff.
I do like to find that, and you were helpful. I remember we ended up playing with the golf champion of Vietnam, right? I mean, I forget the guy's name. Sun was his name?
Yes, that was it. He had good memory. Sun.
Yeah, and I mean, as I remember, we met at the country club outside that 36-hole property outside Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City, and he was a good player, but
Yeah.
here we are in a country where golf was just starting to take root, and that's what I wanted. And he was a guy who helped tell that story of a country that had just a small handful of golfers. He was the national champion, but it's not like he was blitzing into low red numbers. I mean,
No.
he might shoot par on a good day, but it's not like he was playing a game I was unfamiliar with, right? So yeah, I mean, I think that like anything, my beef with travel writing in golf, which I have fallen into myself just by out of necessity, is because if you're just describing golf courses or talking to GMs or people on the marketing side or whatever, you're getting pretty much the same story. And after a while, who wants to hear about the long par 4, dogleg right, 460 over a hill and to the bunker? And certainly nobody wants to hear how I played it. That's boring. So I try to avoid those kind of travel stories if I can, along with the travel stories that are just sort of a celebration of how lucky I was to play all these exclusive courses or these cool courses. That's the least interesting thing about travel writing to me. It's golf to me is the most interesting when you find strange, unexpected places where people play it and unexpected characters playing the game, because that's what's the fun of the game is who you're going to meet on the course, the interactions you're going to have. Most of us aren't, sort of dwelling endlessly on every single shot that we hit. We're thinking about the experiences.
No, and when I think back of all those rounds I played in that part of the world, it's the first images that come to mind are all the faces, all the people that I've played with over there. And
the caddies. Sorry to interrupt you, but the one of the great charms of playing golf in Vietnam is you're playing with. They're usually women caddies, and in my experience, it always has been, but who are rooting so hard for you. And so they giggle nervously when you hit a terrible shot, and they giggle happily when you hit a great shot. And I almost felt more pressure trying to hit a good shot from my caddy because she seemed so sort of genuinely crestfallen when I lost a ball. Oh no, just pained.
And why is she rooting for you?
Why anybody would root for me is a big question. Maybe she's hoping for a more generous tip. I don't know. But it's also that sort of this sense of like, expectation and maybe to a certain extent, a caddy who's just learning the game doesn't know how hard it is, right? They're thinking, every shot should be perfect. Here's this American guy coming over who supposedly knows how to play the game, but doesn't.
The more likely answer though, is they're betting on you. Your caddy,
is that right?
Caddy is betting on you against her, the other caddies within her group.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Those sweet little girls they were caddying, and they were girls. They seem like 16, 17 are gambling already.
That's right.
I'm shocked. Don't pull the wool over my back from over my benighted eyes anymore. I'm an innocent. I'm an innocent. Yeah, but I mean, so whenever that was, and I can tell you, I remember when that was because that was when the Red Sox beat, I think, the Rockies in the World Series. Was that 2005 that I met you? It must have been, or was that 2007? I can't remember the year. 2007.
I think it was 2007. Yeah, because I moved over there in the summer of 2007. So yeah.
And then, as you probably know, because you connected with me, some guys over there. I went back last year to Vietnam, and the place was just transformed. I mean, talk about a booming golf country. I mean, there were courses everywhere, overbuilding, you might say. And I wonder what's going to come of half of those courses.
Yeah, I do too. Not being part of that or seeing it as frequently, obviously, as I did since I've changed professions 2 years ago. I'm not sure. I'd be curious to see. I think the last time I was there was 2 years ago. So I can only.
Yeah,
imagine.
I would love to get back. When we can travel again, Vietnam is high on my list. It's such a cool country.
It really is.
Well, I know Scott was going to bring it up too. All the courses you've played all around the world, is there one on your bucket list that's at the top that you haven't played?
You're asking me or Scott? You're asking Scott, yeah?
I'm asking you, Josh.
You're asking me.
Yeah.
Oh, my bucket list. I would say I have not been to New Zealand. I'd really like to go see Tara Iti, which I hear is spectacular. A Tom Doak design right along the coast. Supposed to be awesome. I'd like to see some of the other older courses there, but just New Zealand in general. I've played a bunch in Australia. I've played in all 6 continents where the game is played, but I have not played in New Zealand, which is just booming with golf.
Years ago, 20 years ago, I hitchhiked around that country, and I still remember most of the faces of the people that I hitched rides with, and it was the most stunning landscape, dramatic landscape that I think I've ever been in that South Island, especially.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I didn't even
beautiful.
play. I didn't even play golf. At that time, really had no interest. Was just in awe of the place itself.
Right, and then you have Cape Kidnappers and Cowrie Cliffs. You have all these really dramatic sites. So if you're into golf and you're into beauty, I mean, it seems like New Zealand is tough to beat. But I've not been there personally yet.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Where do you most want to play? What's your bucket list?
God,
Don't tell me Augusta. No, don't say Augusta.
I don't know where to begin. Every time I think I've seen and played so much, somebody will throw a name of a course out there, and I'll say, I haven't played that either. So there's a lot. There's a lot. For me, I guess it would be. I still haven't played, even though the irony of this, I've spent a lot of time in the Melbourne area, but have not played any of the Sandbelt courses, with the exception of the National, which really isn't in that category. And then I've also been curious of, even though I've also been to Tasmania, this was before Barnbougle Dunes was created. I would love to check that out as well. So any of the courses along the Sandbelt in Australia and Tasmania as well would probably be top of my list.
Yeah, I mean, I think Melbourne is the best golf city in the world in terms of concentration of great courses in a small area. It is just insane. Each one of them better than the next. And Tasmania is amazing. I haven't been back since shortly after they opened Lost Farm, the sister course to Barnbougle, but it's just a spectacular place. It's like Cypress Point with wallabies, just bouncing around. It's just wild, gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Colin?
But I mean, these days I feel like, if the greens are in decent condition, the pace of play is okay, and I'm playing for $5 with a good friend, I'm happy to play almost anywhere.
That little 9-hole at Karika Park. There you go.
Totally happy with that.
There it is.
I would love to get back out there.
Yeah.
As soon as this shoulder gets better, I'll be, God, I can't even lift it over my arm. I'm like right there. So Colin, you cover sports, right? I mean, you're a longtime veteran. You blow out your shoulder. Is there ever any return? In baseball, it's the end of your career.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, hey, I've had right shoulder problems for years. I'm scared to get it looked at. So I don't know if I've got the same thing you have, but it constantly bothers me too. Yeah. But I just won't be throwing any cherry pits, so it'll stay golf ready. As long as I don't do that.
How's that? Yeah. How's that left arm throwing motion, Josh?
Left arm? Yeah, I'm not exactly ambidextrous. I can get it to the home plate, but not with any kind of velocity or movement. And it's all about the late movement, right?
It'll be Fauci-esque if you threw left-handed.
Sorry?
It'd be Fauci-esque if you threw left-handed.
I heard about that. I missed that opening pitch. I heard it was pretty tragic.
Yeah, it was. Well, it happened. We got a couple minutes here left, guys. Scott, you have one last one for Josh?
Well, I just kind of like to know how you've seen the golf travel writing change over the years. You say you've been at this 15 or 20 years, and obviously with the exception of the reduction in outlets, of course, which was a big reason why I got into the PR and marketing side of things, was there was a fast drop off in the amount of outlets that were out there for it, and I just decided to get out then, which was 14 years ago. So how have you seen it change, with the exception of that? Where do you see it going?
I mean, it kind of mirrors what we see across the media, which is less of an investment by outlets in sort of long form travel writing, less of an investment in sending people far afield to come back with an extensive read, a narrative to people to sit down and read. A lot of the travel coverage these days is like other coverage in the media. It's social media, it's clicks, it's Instagram stories. So the idea of finding those characters and kind of telling a yarn there's less of a premium on that. I think there are still some outlets that want to do it, and it's still my interest, but the opportunities for that are fewer and farther between. And now with COVID, we're all just scrambling, trying to tell stories from afar, which is hard.
Yeah. Well, hey, Josh, we're running short of time here. Zoom's going to cut us off. We're not in premium with Zoom, so hey, man, I really
you don't even have the
appreciate
premium
you doing
membership, man. This is This is like,
No.
garage band basement recordings. I like it.
Yeah. We try to keep this under 40 minutes. We don't have interest in talking to you for any longer than that, honestly.
Well, I'd wonder and worry about you if you did.
Social media wise, where can people find you?
At Twitter, Josh Sens, hashtag Josh Sens. I've tweeted 3 or 4 times in the past couple of years, so you can follow those pretty easily.
There you go.
Every time I dive in there, I kind of like take a step back from the vitriol because I want to be cheeky. I want to say something playful, but man, is that a loaded, fraught terrain.
No doubt.
But hey,
there's a lot of anger out there.
Right. But you're doing video stuff now. You're not just a writer. All this stuff from Golf Magazine. You're a multimedia journalist now. You've come into my territory.
Trying to adapt, just trying to stay employed like everybody.
That's right. Well, we're From the Tips. You can find us on Twitter at capital FTT IPS Podcast. That's FT Tips Podcast. Same on Instagram and on Facebook at From the Tips Podcast. And also, you can watch this on YouTube. Hopefully tomorrow I'll get it up, so it'll be ready to go. But this was episode 2 From the Tips with our man Josh Sens, Golf Magazine. Josh, thanks again for joining us. And hey, have a good PGA Championship week from the comfort of your own home.
I'll be icing my shoulder and rooting for Xander Schauffele, who I've got in the office pool.
All right, thanks, guys. That's a wrap.
All right, guys.
All right, see you, Scott.
Have a good one.
You too.